Aiden Cole had lived alone for years on the far side of a small human colony world. His house stood near the edge of a dusty valley where the sun always looked tired, and the wind carried the sound of broken machinery from old mining rigs. He had once been an engineer working for the Alliance fleets, fixing ships that traveled through dangerous star routes. But after the war ended, he wanted silence. He built a small workshop, repaired drones and communication towers for nearby settlers, and avoided visitors. Life had become slow and predictable, which suited him just fine. Then one morning everything changed. It started with a soft knock on his door. It was so light that at first he thought it was the wind pushing against the metal panels. He ignored it. The knock came again, 2 short taps, then silence. Aiden sighed, walked over and opened the door. Standing there was a small alien girl. She couldn't have been more than 6 or 7 years old in human years. Her skin was pale, almost white, with a faint shimmer when sunlight touched it. Her long hair fell in tangled strands, and her eyes, large and silver like moonlight, watched him quietly. She wore nothing but a torn blanket around her shoulders. Before he could speak, she tilted her head and whispered one single word. "Daddy?" Aiden froze. He looked around the dusty yard, expecting to see someone hiding. A parent, a neighbor, maybe even one of those prank-hungry kids from the settlement. But there was no one. Just the empty wind and the endless stretch of desert. He knelt slowly, keeping his voice calm. "Hey, kid. I think you've got the wrong house." She blinked but didn't move. "Daddy," she repeated, her voice soft like she was sure. He didn't know what to say. The word hit something deep in him, something he didn't want to feel. He hadn't been called that since his wife and unborn child had died years ago, in an accident during evacuation from a damaged colony. He shook his head to push the memory away. "All right, come inside for a minute," he said finally. "Let's figure out what's going on." Inside, he gave her water and a spare thermal blanket. She drank slowly, staring at the flickering heater like it was something new. Aiden tried to ask questions, where she came from, who her parents were, but she didn't answer much. All she did was look at him and say the same word quietly, as if she was afraid he'd disappear if she stopped saying it. "Daddy." When he took her to the local patrol station later that day, she clung to his sleeve. She wouldn't let go, trembling each time the guards approached. Aiden tried to explain to the officers that he had found her wandering near his workshop, but the girl hid her face against his arm. The patrol didn't find any records of missing children, human or alien. Their scanners showed that her biology wasn't completely human, but close enough to confuse the system. They said they'd take her to the science district for further testing, but as soon as they tried to separate her from Aiden, the lights in the room flickered, every screen blinked to black, and the scanners stopped working. The guards backed off quickly. Aiden didn't know what caused the power surge, but the girl's hands were glowing faintly for a moment before the light faded. He didn't want to believe she had anything to do with it. Still, when she looked up at him, eyes wet and frightened, he heard himself say, "She's coming with me." That night he gave her a corner of his small house and an old sleeping pad. He thought she'd cry or ask questions, but she just sat there watching him fix a drone engine. After a while she reached out, pointed at the loose wire, and said in broken words, "That one." "Wrong." Aiden raised an eyebrow. "You know machines?" She nodded shyly. He followed her hint, reattached the wire the way she suggested, and to his surprise, the drone powered up instantly. It was a simple fix, but still, she shouldn't have known that. He looked at her again. She smiled, just a small, honest smile that somehow warmed the coldest corner of his heart. From that day on, she kept appearing. Every morning, without fail, when he opened the door, she was standing there, even if he had walked her to bed the night before. Once he tried locking the door tight just to test if she'd come. At dawn, the knock came again. When he opened it, she was outside, smiling, holding a small flower she had found near the valley. The neighbors started talking. They called her the Ghost Girl. Some said she was a lost experiment from an old lab. Others whispered that she was a spirit drawn to Aiden's loneliness. But to Aiden, she was just Lyra. He chose the name after the constellation he used to watch with his late wife. It fit her. Something about her felt both fragile and infinite, like starlight. 3 years passed like that. Lyra grew slowly, though not in the way human children did. Her mind was sharp. She learned human language easily, could repair machines faster than most engineers, and sometimes finished Aiden's sentences before he said them. She even cooked breakfast in her own odd way, using tools to heat food with a faint energy from her hands instead of the old stove. But she also had moments that worried him. Sometimes she'd wake up in the middle of the night, crying in a language he didn't understand. Other times she'd stare at the horizon, whispering strange numbers or coordinates. Aiden kept a record of them, thinking maybe they meant something. When he tried asking, she would only shake her head and say softly, "They're memories, but not mine." Once a research team came to the colony. They heard rumors about a child with strange energy abilities. They wanted to study her, promising safety and care. Aiden refused. He didn't trust them. The night they left, he found one of his drones disabled and his data files copied. Someone had tried to take information about Lyra. That was when he realized she wasn't just unusual. She was being hunted. One evening, while Aiden repaired a weather antenna on the roof, Lyra sat below drawing symbols in the dirt. The air was quiet until the ground shook slightly. She looked up at the sky, her eyes wide with fear. Aiden followed her gaze. A flash of silver light streaked through the clouds like a storm, but too controlled, too deliberate. It wasn't lightning. It was a ship entering the atmosphere. "Lyra, get inside," he shouted. She didn't move. Her small hands were trembling. "They found me," she said. Her voice was shaking, but her eyes were clear. "I didn't mean for them to find you, too." Aiden climbed down and grabbed her shoulders gently. "Who found you?" "What are you talking about?" "The ones I came from," she whispered. "The ones who made me." The next few seconds felt endless. The ship's sound grew louder. A shadow passed over the valley as if the sun itself was being covered. Then several smaller lights broke away from it, heading straight toward the colony. The communication channel on Aiden's wristband started flashing. But when he answered, only static came through, then a strange voice speaking in patterns he couldn't understand. Lyra grabbed his hand tightly. "I can stop them for a while. But if I do, they'll know exactly where we are." Aiden didn't let go. "You're not stopping anything alone," he said. "If they're coming for you, they'll have to go through me first." For the first time in 3 years, Lyra looked truly scared. "You can't fight them. They're my people." Aiden's chest felt heavy. "Your people?" he repeated. "They called themselves the Valari," she said. "Long ago, they tried to make something new, something between their kind and humans. But the war came. They erased everything. I escaped somehow. I didn't remember who I was. Only you." The sound outside grew louder, engines, landing gears, the hum of alien metal. Aiden pulled her close, heart racing. "Then we'll figure it out together. I don't care who made you. You're my kid." Her silver eyes filled with tears. For a second, the fear on her face melted into something softer. Trust. The ground shook again, and a glowing shape descended beyond the hill. The colony sirens began to wail. Lyra turned toward the door, breathing fast. "They won't stop until I go back." "And if you go back?" Aiden asked. "They'll erase what I've become," she whispered. "They'll erase you from me." He didn't answer. The sky outside was no longer just dark. It was filled with the reflection of ships spreading out like a net. He could see the lights moving closer through the dust. Organized, methodical, unstoppable. Aiden stepped forward, placing himself between Lyra and the approaching glare. He didn't have a plan, just a feeling that whatever happened next, he wouldn't let them take her. The house trembled as the first ship landed nearby, its shadow swallowing everything. Lyra's voice broke as she whispered, "Daddy." He looked back at her, and for that one word, every piece of silence in his life finally made sense. He nodded, forcing a small smile. "I've got you, kid. No matter what." The walls rattled again. The lights dimmed. The sound of footsteps, metallic and heavy, echoed outside. And when the door began to open, the air itself seemed to stop moving. The next moment would decide whether Aiden Cole remained a quiet engineer or became something much greater, a father protecting, the only being who truly called him that word. And outside, the Valari ships waited. Aiden felt the vibrations through the floor as the Valari ship's landing gear pressed into the soft valley dust. The massive craft reflected the morning sun, casting shadows that swallowed half his house. He held Lyra close, feeling the small tremor of fear running through her body. Her silver eyes were wide, shimmering with light he had never seen before. He didn't need to understand the science or the power behind her. He only knew one thing. She belonged here. With him, not with anyone else. The outer door of the ship opened with a hiss, releasing a glowing ramp that extended to the ground. Figures emerged, tall, lithe, with pale skin like hers but more angular. more rigid. Their armor shimmered like liquid metal. Aiden's heart pounded in his chest. These were not invaders. They were hunters. One of them, taller than the others and wearing a helmet that reflected everything around it, stepped forward. The others followed in perfect formation. Lyra stiffened and whispered, "They are my people, the Valari." Her voice shook, but her grip on his hand didn't loosen. Aiden swallowed and crouched slightly, trying to appear smaller, harmless, but ready. "If you want her," he said, his voice calm but firm, "you'll have to go through me." The tallest Valari spoke, but the words weren't human. Lyra tilted her head, listening, then said, "They call me Lyra Thiel. They want me back, because I carry what they lost." Aiden frowned. "What they lost?" She shook her head. "I don't remember everything, but they made me from both their genes and mine. Something they wanted to survive. Something human." Her small hand pressed against his chest. "They won't understand that I chose to be me." The lead Valari extended a hand toward her. "Return," it said, voice resonating not just through air but inside their minds. "You are needed. You are not human." Lyra's silver eyes flickered with fear, confusion, and determination. She looked at Aiden. "I don't want to go," she whispered, "but I don't know if I can stop them." Aiden shook his head. "You can, and I'll help you." He glanced around the workshop and the yard, noticing the old drones and tools. He realized that for 3 years she had been learning, not just surviving, but preparing. Every repair, every machine she touched had absorbed her energy. She had grown stronger than he ever imagined. The lead Valari raised an arm, and the smaller ships hovering above activated weapons. The valley around them shook as gravity distortions warped the air. Aiden looked at Lyra. "Do what you need to do," he said, "but I won't let them take you without a fight." She nodded, closing her eyes. A soft glow spread from her body, faint at first, then bright enough to reflect off the walls of the house. The ground around her rippled as if alive, bending light and energy. Aiden felt warmth radiate from her, not just physical, but something deeper. Humanity, hope, and defiance wrapped into one fragile body. The Valari advanced. The tallest one extended a hand again, trying to reach her. Lyra opened her eyes, and the light in them was blinding. Energy surged outward in a wave, strong enough to push the Valari back several meters. Aiden stumbled but didn't fall. He realized this was more than power. It was her choice, her will to survive and protect him. The lead Valari struggled to maintain balance, his armor cracking slightly under the energy. "She is not ready," it said through a growl of sound and thought. "The human influence is unexpected." Aiden tightened his grip on Lyra's hand. "Then let's show them what humans can do together." Lyra nodded, and this time she didn't just glow. Her entire form shimmered as if woven from silver light. The energy spread faster and stronger, disabling the weapons on the hovering ships. Panels melted, lasers short-circuited, and the Valari fell back, surprised by her strength. It was clear that even the Valari hadn't expected this. For a moment there was silence except for the hum of disrupted machinery. Aiden looked at her in awe. She was still a child, yet more powerful than most beings he had encountered in his life. "Lyra, you're incredible," he said softly. "I learned from you," she replied. "I learned what it means to care, to protect." The lead Valari recovered and stepped forward, more cautious now. "You are hers?" it asked, eyes scanning Aiden. The question was not just about blood, it was about connection, a bond they could not measure or replicate. Aiden nodded. "I am hers. I don't care what you call her. She is human enough to choose, and she chooses to stay here." The Valari lowered his hand slightly. "She has chosen differently than intended." His voice carried disappointment but not anger. "Very well. But the data she carries she cannot keep forever. It will be needed to save our species." Lyra's hands glowed again, and she spoke with clarity, her voice firm. "I choose life here. I choose family. I am not an object to be taken." The Valari leader hesitated. Energy flared around Lyra again, and Aiden realized that this time it wasn't just power, it was a bridge. She could transfer knowledge, energy, even control systems across distance. She extended her hands toward the ships, and one by one they powered down. Engines shut off. Lights went dark. The ships hovered silently, unable to move. Aiden's jaw dropped. "You stopped them?" "Yes," she said simply. "I won't let them take you either. Not anymore." Her body dimmed slightly, the glow retreating as the energy stabilized. The lead Valari lowered his head, acknowledging defeat without words. Then you are truly human in more ways than we intended. But understand the universe will notice this. Lyra blinked, unsure what he meant. Aiden wrapped his arms around her. Then we'll face it together, he said. The Valari began to retreat, leaving the colony untouched but silent. The threat had passed, but the world would never be the same. Scientists would eventually study the energy wave she had released, and some would call her a miracle, while others would call her dangerous. But for now she was safe, and Aiden realized something he hadn't allowed himself to feel in years. Hope. That night he sat beside her in the small living room watching the stars. Lyra had returned to her quiet, observant self, her silver eyes reflecting starlight. "Are they gone?" she asked softly. "Yes," Aiden replied. "For now. You're safe here," she nodded, leaning against him. "Thank you, Daddy." He smiled, feeling a warmth he hadn't felt in a long time. "Always," he said. "You know, I never thought anyone would actually call me that again." "They always will," she whispered, closing her eyes. Days passed, and life slowly returned to its quiet rhythm. Lyra continued to learn, building small devices, repairing old drones, and helping Aiden around the workshop. But there was a new awareness between them. The universe was bigger than they had imagined. Danger might return, but they had each other, and that was enough. One morning, 3 years to the day she first appeared, Aiden opened the door as usual. Lyra was standing there, smiling shyly, holding a small bundle of wildflowers. "Good morning, Daddy," she said. He bent down and hugged her. "Good morning, Lyra, I missed you." She giggled, hiding behind the flowers. "I missed you too." Aiden looked at the sky where distant Valari ships occasionally flickered like stars on the horizon. He didn't feel fear. He felt pride. This child, this alien-human hybrid, had survived unimaginable odds, and she was still here, still human enough to choose love, family, and home. And in that moment, he realized the truth. It wasn't just about being strong or powerful. It was about choice, connection, and courage. Lyra had shown him the essence of what it meant to be human. She had made him more than a man who repaired machines. She had made him a father. He took her hand and led her inside, ready to face whatever the universe had in store. They would face it together as family, as humans, and as something more. The galaxy might be vast, cold, and dangerous, but here in this small workshop, in this quiet colony on the edge of nowhere, love and courage had found a home. And for Aiden Cole, for the first time in a long time, that was enough.